Good evening, I'm Anthony Fury filling in for David Aiken. Our first stop is to Battleground Canada, where new poll data released on the Liberal leadership race presents perceived frontrunner Justin Trudeau with a bit of a challenge. Joining me for more on this from our Ottawa studio, parliamentary reporter Jessica Murphy. Jessica, tell me about this poll.
Well, first off, Anthony, this is all about speaking fees. And of course, we do know that Justin Trudeau has been collecting speaking fees on this speaking circuit since he was elected, and before he was elected, in fact. But as an MP, since he was elected or first elected in 2008, he has collected over $277,000, talking to anything from school boards to nonprofit groups, charities, what have you. He gets up to $20,000, $10,000 a pop to do so. Now, we had Forum Research doing a poll on that issue, and they say that overwhelmingly Canadians really are kind of giving that idea a thumbs down. They don't like their members of parliament making money on the speaker circuit. First off, 76% of Canadians disagree that politicians should be charging speaking fees, just a small amount. 11% think they should do so. Another 13% have no real opinion. Now, when respondents were asked specifically about Trudeau, the numbers were not as bad, but again, you see there, Trudeau, should he return the speaking fees, specifically the ones he charged or that were charged to non-profit groups? Now, Canadians are saying yes, 57% of them, he should give that money back. 24% of them say no. And I'll just say, in terms of among people who identify as Liberals, they said 44% of them said that he should return those speaking fees as well. So we're seeing that people really don't think it was a good idea to be charging these fees. B, they do think, especially when it comes to charging non-profits to hear you speak, they don't really like the idea, think that money should be given back. Couple things I will note, however, Anthony. Of course, this was all cleared by the Ethics Commissioner here on Parliament Hill that looks at this type of thing. And also, one of his rivals, one of Trudeau's rivals, Marc Garneau, actually was also on the Speaker circuit. The first year he was elected, he was paid $10,000 for a speech. He said he'd already committed to that and has not done any since. And there's one other Liberal, Christy Duncan, who also is on the Speaker circuit. And again, it's something that Canadians really don't seem to like very much.
Thanks for that, Jessica. That was Jessica Murphy in our Ottawa newsroom. For more on this, we're now joined by political strategist Jason Leader in studio. Hey, Jason, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so what are your thoughts on this story right when you see this? Most of Canadians say, Trudeau, you should give this money back, even quite a lot of Liberals.
It doesn't surprise me at all because, listen, I mean, people expect politicians to be out there giving speeches, talking to people, talking to groups, and it doesn't surprise me that people want this money paid back. I mean, think, for example, if you're the Kingston School Board who paid this guy $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, right? I mean, that's the residents of Kingston, that's their tax dollars paying, essentially a public servant to come and speak to them. And I think it's just, it rubs people the wrong way. And even if the ethics commissioner, and it was said it was A-OK in terms of the ethics side, I think most Canadians just sort of it doesn't really pass the smell test here. And I think Trudeau, they're fooling themselves. They've been patting themselves on the back over the last couple of weeks about how great they handled this issue and they got the news out there and everything went swimmingly for them. But what this poll tells you is that it's not over. It's not going to be over for a while. There's going to be increasing pressure for this guy to pay the money back.
But arguably they have handled it well because Trudeau is still immensely popular. He released his numbers for the supporter category of people he enrolled, 6 figures, a lot more than many people suspected. I mean, is this water off a duck's back for Trudeau?
Well, I mean, we're gonna find out because the truth is none of his opponents in the Liberal leadership race have really taken a real run at him. You could argue that Marc Garneau is, but this is going to become a bigger issue. There's questions that have to be asked here, right? A, did the taxpayers fund any of these trips to go speak? When he goes to Kingston to go speak, who funded that? Did the Kingston School Board or did the taxpayers? And if the Kingston School Board funded it, for example, then did he do a Liberal fundraiser that night? Did he do MP business? It gets pretty murky. And these are the questions that he's going to be asked, right? Who paid? How much did they pay? How much did you keep? How much did you give? Were you on the public's dime? Were you on Justin Trudeau time? It's pretty messy, and he's got a lot of questions to answer.
As a strategist, as a campaign manager, first the story breaks, all these Trudeau speaking fees. He half released some of this information in an exclusive about his finances with the Post Media Network. So they were prepared for this, but then things like this new poll, well, they're not prepared for it. I mean, how would a strategist respond to this?
Well, listen, you gotta try, and if you're a strategist, if you're Justin Trudeau's people, you want to talk about anything but this, anything but money and speaking fees and that kind of thing, and they'll want to talk about momentum and how many supporters and how many members and stuff. The problem is they haven't answered all the questions, and until those questions are answered, and the truth is, even if you answer all the questions, the fundamental problem they've got is that Canadians don't agree with it. So even if they answer every single question the journalist posed to them, the poll that you released tonight says 70% of people just don't agree generally, and 57% think that he should pay it back. 57% is a big proportion, and if he finds himself in a position where an election is held, or this is a significant issue in an election, he's got a big problem with the electorate.
Do you think we should maybe be changing the actual rules that parliamentarians have to face? Because I guess it's one of those awkward gotcha moments where, well, he did follow the rules, even though he did something that we view as unsavory. Sure. You might not know at the time. Well, one would think he should have the right judgment at the time, but it's not necessarily clear what people will later view as unsavory.
Yeah, and it's, if you're going to run for prime minister, you're held to a bit of a higher standard as well. And I would argue he probably knew at some point he was running for prime minister. So the truth is, the rules are relatively clear. But in this case, this is an activity that people expect parliamentarians to be taking, right? For example, there's parliamentarians who own businesses, car dealerships. They owned before this, different food and beverage. They own restaurants, that kind of thing.
And they still own it when they're in office.
And they still own it when they're in office. But this kind of thing is like, it's parliamentary business. Traveling to someplace to give a speech at a fundraiser or at a public event, it's very similar to parliamentary business. So it's very hard to where does the line and there's a lot of gray areas here, and unfortunately for Trudeau, he's dealing with it right now.
When should one work on cleaning one's slate? Is it before you even begin to run office? Is it when you're an MP, while you're thinking of running for leader? I mean, where do you really have to scrub it all and get rid of the Facebook photos of you holding a beer sort of stuff?
Well, I mean, a beer's one thing, but
right.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars speaking. Listen, you have to always be thinking about this kind of stuff, and Trudeau has been, I would argue as well, from the very start, and I would argue they probably made a mistake on this one in not figuring it out soon enough. Right up until the last couple of years, he was making big money giving political speeches, and it's coming back to haunt him.
All right, Jason, thanks for joining us as always.
Thanks.